Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome to the G.R.I.N.D. Simon Arias here. Get ready, it's a new day. What's up, gang? Welcome to another episode of the G.R.I.N.D. Get ready, it's a new day, and we have a special guest, special treat in the house. My friend, our CEO of our insurance company, Steve Greer. And we were just talking when I was coming up on who's the star of the show, and it's cool that I'm probably last place I'm probably third best star here in this. Probably Greer's number one, Perm's number two, usually number one, and I'm last. So we're excited to hear from Mr. Steve Greer, our friend who's at the corporate home office of our company. For those of you that don't know, it's based in Dallas, actually McKinney, Texas, and Greer is at the helm running the show. So, Steve, maybe can you open up and start telling us a little bit about how you found AIO and in this company? Your story never gets old to me. It's so inspiring. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, upbringing, and kind of how you transitioned here?
Sure. First off, let me say, until I get my own mug like Perm, I feel like I'm not a star. So I gotta work on the Greer swag. You know what I mean?
You got it, boss.
T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats. But that mug is on another level. And let me just start by saying, man, I'm super excited to be here today. You know, just to hang out with you guys and talk to you for a few moments, and hopefully, you know, we can share something that maybe would inspire somebody to hang in there a little longer, or maybe somebody to take the step, you know, another step in their career. And I think what you'll find out from talking today is that this definitely isn't a perfect story. Not a perfect guy, a few ups and downs, but I'll take you back early, just a little bit of upbringing. And the reason why I want to do that is I think if I don't, potentially some of the things I say could come out the wrong way. And if you sort of know where I came from, then I think it'll all come together and make a little more sense. No sooner than I was born, my parents were divorced. So I started out with a single mom, and she got remarried, and that didn't work out. And we were kind of plugging along, and I was living in Louisville, Kentucky. Sort of inner city, the Hazelwood area. There's housing projects there. We lived in the housing projects. Then we upgraded and moved right on the edge of the housing projects. But it's kind of like a group effort. My cousin, Dorian and Duran, who you guys might have heard of, they're with American Income as well. They lived right there. And so a lot of the time I lived with them, and both of our moms worked. So when one mom was working, the other one was babysitting, and back and forth, you know, we kind of went. Well, around the time I was, I think about 9, my mom got married for the third time. And let me stop and say, because I think this is important. Even though my mom and dad, my biological mother and father, got, you know, divorced when I was born, I was still fortunate to have a dad that was at least get me every weekend and stay involved on some level. And you know, for all the guys out there who have kids and sometimes the relationship doesn't work out, I would encourage you to do the best you can to you know, be a father to that child. So anyway, my mom got married for the third time. This time she hit gold. My stepdad was a great guy. Really what he brought to me foundationally through his example was the spiritual side of things. He was a guy that would get up every day and read his Bible. He did some small-time preaching on the side at nursing homes, and I would go with him as a little kid and go to nursing homes. He was a maintenance man. He never made a lot of money. When him and my mom got married, he had 2 kids, she had 2 kids, and then they had another one. So I was one of 5 all of a sudden. And I'll never forget, he was making $6 an hour. Which back then, I mean, that was a decent wage, because minimum wage was like not a whole lot. But with 5 kids, it just wasn't enough. And so my mom also cleaned houses, both residential houses and some new construction, kind of get those houses ready for somebody to move into. So when I was 12 years old, I started working with her, cleaning some houses to make some extra money. And then when I was 14, I got my first commission job. And I was super excited about my commission job. I got paid $0.25 a case. I went to work for a buddy of mine. His mom worked at the Lackland Commissary. We had moved to San Antonio, Texas, and I was stocking groceries for $0.25 a case. And I was super excited to do that because I could make enough money to buy lunch at school. I could make enough money to buy shoes. And to me, this was all a big deal because just briefly stepping back, just a short time before that, we got free lunch at school. We stood in line and got free government cheese. I was raised on, government cheese, which I have to be honest with you, I was excited about it when I got it. You know what I mean? When that time of the year came around.
I loved it.
Yeah. No, it's funny when I talk about that, it makes my mouth water, just thinking about it. Like, for those of you that haven't had that opportunity. But anyway, the one thing I do remember was, my mom and my stepdad, when you'd say, hey, I want some shoes, or hey, I want this or that, the answer to everything was always, we don't have the money. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Mom, I need a pair of jeans. We don't have the money. I need shoes. We don't have the money. Mom, what's the weather going to be out today? We don't have the money. You know what I mean? That was just a standard answer for everything. And I remember as a young man thinking, man, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live where literally, it's funny because I think a lot of people think, rich people think about money a lot. Be quite honest with you. We were thinking a whole lot more about money when we didn't have any than when we did have some, you know what I mean? So, I remember my dad, me saying to him, man, I want a better life. I want better things. And he said, well, Steve, the reason why nobody in our family makes really good money is nobody went to college. And if you want to make good money and all the good jobs, good job, kind of an oxymoron, but if you want to make good money and have a good job, you got to go to school and get an education. And I'm sure there are many people on here today, their parents told them the same thing. So I went to school, went to Western Kentucky University, got a finance and accounting degree, came out of college, couldn't find a job, probably like many of the kids today, was frustrated. I was ambitious, but I was frustrated, and I was looking for an opportunity. And I was fortunate. I ended up getting a lead from my wife, Dana, from her mom was working for GE and General Electric. And so I got an interview with General Electric, went to work for them. And so for the next 5 years, I was a mover and a shaker. And if there's a little nugget that I can tell any of those recent college graduates. So I graduated college. I was, 22 years old, 22, 23. By the time I was 25, 2 years later, I had read over 100 self-development or leadership books. Boom. In a 2-year period of time. And why I bring that up is because no matter where you're at in the workplace, wherever you're at in life, you can stand out, and what you're putting in your mind is what's going to come out. And at GE, they were like, this kid is saying stuff and doing stuff. I was reading The Magic of Thinking Big and Think and Grow Rich and, Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective. I was just consuming all of this, not book stuff, but life stuff. Yes. Things that I could go in the office and apply tomorrow. And it was like blowing people's minds. And so,
what's crazy when you said that is you read 100 books in your first 2 years. I saw somewhere that they say that the average CEO in America reads 50 books a year.
Wow.
So is that what started the path, I wonder? You know what I mean? Because there's stats out there wherever they pull this from that I've read that says the average CEO reads 50 books a year. That's an average of 50 books a year. Anyway.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. That's, what's funny? And we all read these things, and you you hear these things, and Steve Jobs, one of his quotes that I love was, "You can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back." And here's what's funny, Simon. I want you to imagine this. Imagine Steve Greer. I was 17 years old. I graduated from high school. I'm signing up for classes my freshman year of college. And my dad says, "Okay, so what kind of classes do you want to take?" And I was, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I really like the outdoors. Like I like fishing and I like the outdoors." I was thinking maybe like a park ranger. I was looking down at the list. I was looking down at the list. And I said, "What do you think of that, Dad?" He said, "No." He goes, "No." He goes, "What you do is you get a good job and then you get to enjoy your time off. You make money, you get a good job, make some money, and then you get to enjoy your time off." And so this is when people talk about writing down goals and how your mind works. My dad grabs a magazine and puts it in front of me. And it's a Forbes magazine. And the magazine said on the cover, 80% of American CEOs have a finance degree. My dad said, "How does CEO sound?" I said, "What's that?" You know what I mean? Wow. He goes, "That's the guy that runs the place." I said, "Oh yeah, I like running stuff." He goes, "All right, we're going to sign you up for a finance degree." That's literally like all the people that are listening today that just knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. I wasn't that guy. I was lost. You know what I mean? I was just going, I don't know. I want to make some money. I don't know what I want to do. I really had no clue. So, after 5 years at GE, what I'll tell you is the corporate structure can hold back a person because it doesn't move to the speed of many of the people that we're talking to today at American Income and in other places where you control your own destiny. It can be very frustrating if you're in a structure where just because somebody got there before you or has already been there for 10 years and you're basically waiting for somebody to retire, get fired, or die to get promoted.
True.
And that was a very frustrating thing for me as a young man, because I really felt like at 25, 27, like I should be, I wanted more responsibility and I wanted, you know what I mean, to make a bigger difference. And it wasn't happening fast enough, which got me looking. And many times in life, you're looking for lookers. A lot of times we meet people and talk to people, they're stone cold dead. And then there's other people that you talk to that they are looking for an opportunity in life. They're driving around praying for it. And then all of a sudden they run into you and you could be that answer to prayer. Yep. And so, when you're talking to people and they have nothing here, be a nice guy and move on down the road. But there's a lot of people out there that are looking to get ahead, and you're looking to surround yourself with those kind of people in life.
What made you go from that? You said you were there 5 years with GE.
Yeah.
So then did you transition right out into AIL?
Yeah, I did.
And what was the setup from that? I know Duran, I know your cousin. I remember the story, but a lot of the listeners don't.
Sure. Being a park ranger.
Go ahead, Perm.
No, before being a park ranger, we wanted to be a park ranger.
Yes. Yeah, I never got to do that, Perm. So I was looking and I was always like trying to keep my eye on things and looking for opportunities and looking, for a way. And I happened to understand from working at GE and doing some of the books, I was the finance and accounting guy. I was looking, Simon, and I saw, I got to see all the payroll.
Yeah.
And I noticed that all the people in sales were making all the money.
Yeah.
And so I went to human resources and said, "Hey, I want to get into sales." And they said, "Oh, you can't get into sales. You're in the accounting department. They don't get into sales." And so I quit. I literally,
he said, "It ain't for me."
I knew, I was like, I got to get into sales somehow. So I'm looking for sales job. I'm interviewing in Austin, Texas with a friend. I'm putting my feelers out. G.R.I.N.D heard, and he called me and said, "Hey, we need to get together and meet." So, he did, pardon, how you do these fancy, when you wine and dine somebody, you take them out to a really nice restaurant.
Yep.
So at the time we were in Kentucky, so he took me to Cracker Barrel. So
I love Cracker
he said,
Barrel.
"Yeah, let's meet at Cracker Barrel.
Let's go.
Close this deal." And anyway, we meet at Cracker Barrel, and he starts painting this vision of American income and how it worked. And I didn't really, I have to be honest, I didn't really understand everything, but I had faith. And he was talking about renewals, and I was like, wow. I remember he said, Steve, it's like Elvis Presley income. I said, Elvis Presley income? What do you mean? He said, well, it's like where you cut the record one time, but even after you're dead, every time the song plays, you get paid. I was like, my eyes were this big. I mean, I was like, yes. And, there's a little nugget in there because Simon, he was talking about, leadership bonuses and how when your people do better, you do better. And what clicked, and it was from like reading a lot of books, and I'd already heard this concept, but G.R.I.N.D putting it together, what most wealthy people are not doing is trading hours for dollars. They have a way to multiply their time and effort. So, you've only got 168 hours in a week, right? You got to sleep sometime unless you're Simon, and you
I've been getting 8. I get 8 hours.
Do you get it in? Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, well, that means you must go to bed at 6 p.m. because I know how early you get up.
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
I love it. But, he was explaining this concept where you could duplicate yourself, the residual income, and I could see like, wait a minute, I'm looking for an opportunity. You're talking about no upfront investment, essentially none. Get a license. Yep. It's not going to cost, no barrier to entry, no franchise fees, no, all this kind of stuff. And then he told me, and this is like where the bell went off. He's like, and if you do really well, then there's an opportunity for you to have your own agency. I'm like, what? Come on. Like, you could actually have your own business. He's like, yeah, it's kind of similar to like franchising is what he was trying to explain to me at the time. And I was like, wow, I've never, now, after he got me really, really excited, we're in the parking lot. He said, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, we're going to open up this office in Rochester. I'm like, well, that's funny. I've never heard of Rochester, Kentucky. He said, oh, no, Rochester, New York. I was like, oh. He goes, hey, you wanted to get in sales, right? I said, yeah. This is G.R.I.N.D, Simon. I said, yeah, man, I told you I want to be in sales. He goes, well, your first sale is with Dana. Good luck.
Truth. Right? That's always the first sale.
Yeah. And so I thought on the way home, I thought about that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn something from G.R.I.N.D on day one. I went home and did the same thing. I talked for 45 minutes about how rich we were going to be and how exciting this was going to be and how she wouldn't have to work anymore. And at the time, we had a vision to get her home with the kids. We had 3 very small children. And sometimes you have to leave something good to get something great.
Amen.
And we packed our bags, had a good corporate job, benefits, health insurance, all the little trappings, and moved 700 miles to Rochester, New York. Our family thought we were absolutely nuts. My mother-in-law said, nobody quits GE. You come here, you work 30 years, you have this great pension and retirement and all this kind of stuff. Literally, there were some upset people. When you got 3 babies, basically, they felt like it was irresponsible. But what I was thinking is, well, I always get another job. Right? How often do opportunities like this come along?
Present itself.
And, burn some bridges, baby, and went for it.
I think, in the thing that always sticks out to me about, your story is it's easy to look at where you're at right now and to see you happily married. I know over 20 years, you've been married to Dana. You have 3 beautiful children. 6, we were just talking about Bailey just made the honor roll. I mean, just they see all the corporate jets, private jets, CEO, all this, but what they don't see is the stories of Dana with the 3 kids, and you're out working, and she's cleaning things, cleaning places. Yes. Can you talk about that startup phase? Because people miss that part of your journey And then I think they miss the motivation or inspiration to do wherever they are currently right now. The things that stand out to me is, number one, you see he gave up good for great. Most of the time, people, there's trade-offs. You have to gain anything, you always got to give up something. And I think the reason why people don't gain as much as they could is because the giving up of things is usually what scares people. And then it comes then the sacrifice. You know, people like the outcome. If we could tell them, hey, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get private jets. You're going to make plenty of money. You're going to be married with 3 kids, all of them successful, all of them did great in college and be in great weather.
Sounds great.
Okay, you want that job?
Oh,
yeah. How about wife, 3 young kids, move away from home, and I'm working some nights and stuff. So why don't you talk about that part of the journey, that without that journey, you wouldn't be here today?
Let me do that, Simon. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know there's a lot of people probably that are listening today that, you know, they got wife, they got kids, you know, you gotta miss some t-ball games and some dance recitals and things like that. But what happened was, when we made a decision, I immediately moved to Rochester, New York, and started selling. And what we needed to do is, we had a home, so we had to sell our house. So in order to sell a house, you know, you kind of got to keep it cleaned up and the yard cut and everything in order, right? And so the plan was, let's put the house on the market, and Dana's going to be up here in a month or 2, you know, that type of deal. I mean, like, literally, you know, we hadn't even packed.
Right.
That type, you know, it's like, boom, go. Let's go. I ain't waiting around. Let's get started. So Dana was also working part-time cleaning homes. So what she did was, she had 2 friends that had kids as well. So on one day, Dana would clean houses, and on the next day, she would babysit another girl's kids. And then on the next day, Dana would clean houses, and the third girl would babysit. So they had this little rotation that was going on. But, you know, people a lot of times ask, and here's part of the story: no sooner than I moved to New York, September 11th happens. Probably one of the most devastating times in our country's history. The housing market stops. The world stops. It's almost like the pandemic we're going through right now, where there are moments in time where big things happen. September 11th shook this country to its core. It scared us really bad, you know, as a nation. And what happened was, the housing market stopped. So for 10 months, Dana was stuck in Louisville while I was in New York selling. And so not only did you have the entire situation of what was going on trying to get started in a new business, but my wife and 3 kids are in another state. And I tell people, you know, I know you've got to miss a dance recital and you know, in a t-ball game. I missed the first, or Parker was 3 months old. I missed the next 9 months of his life. Like, you can take the first year of his life, and remember holding up baby Simon, just erase that, because I don't have that. Wow. And it ain't no big deal. That's the funny thing about kids. They don't remember. Right. You know, and I asked the kids, I told them, I said, I'm sorry I missed this, and I'm sorry I missed that, because there was a lot of missing those things, you know, when they were growing up. And I told them I'm sorry, and I sat them down and had a real serious talk with them. And you know what they told me, Perm?
What they tell you?
They said, that's okay, Dad. We like being rich.
Yeah, I bet that's what they told you. It's all right, Dad. No worries. I love the richness.
No, we'll take it.
We'll take it, Dad.
Yeah. In fact, they told me, they said, we'll let you make it up to us for the rest of our life.
Truth, man. Truth. You know, another thing that stands out to me in your journey was, you know, when you talked about the adversity and obstacle, where, you know, sometimes, you know, there's a quote out there that says, adversity causes some men to break and it causes others to break records. And, you know, you talked about, you know, at one point of your career, you had some retention issues pop up, and, you know, the business went down and agents were leaving, and you kind of were forced, after years of being in the game, to get back out there and start training people yourself and selling again yourself. How many years were you in the game where you had to come back out there and make a choice? Either I'm going to fail and step backwards, or I'm going to grind forwards and make the rest the best.
So, boy, that brings back bad memories. The bad memories aren't always so fun to talk about, but you learn so much from them. So I was with the company for 2 years, about 2.5 years, became an SGA. And everybody out there, when they look at an SGA, they think, man, that's the best job in the world. You just tell everybody what to do, and magic just happens, until you've been in those shoes. You don't understand the level of responsibility, and it is not as easy as it looks. And I know hopefully there's some SGAs that are listening to your thing today. And I know these guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It's sort of like being a CEO too. You know what I mean? Same deal. But anyway, I was poking along 2.5 years with the company. I became an SGA pretty quick. I was a pretty young man, had turned barely 30 years old. Started when I was 28. Here I am 30, and I'm doing my deal as an SGA. Things start to go pretty well. The one gift I had was I was good at personal recruiting. So I brought in 5 good friends of mine, and we started to build a great agency in Houston. Then all of a sudden we went through this quality issue, this retention of business issue that Simon's talking about. And it's funny because, people just start jumping off the ship. They panic. All of a sudden when they have challenges with quality and they're not getting bonuses and they're not getting advanced, things start to go. And here's a critical point to this story. I had done so well at this time. I was one of the youngest members on the executive council. So back in the day, Simon, only the old dogs were on the executive council. Guys that had been around 20, 30 years, these type of people. And here I was, this young gun, 2005, that was on the executive council, and I was super excited to be there. And all of a sudden, my retention's tanking, my agency's falling apart. At the time, just to put you in some perspective, Jim and Simon weren't partners yet, and
Marcus
and me and Jim were in the same category.
Jim and Marcus.
What did I say?
Jim and Simon.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's all right.
My bad. Yeah, of course. Jim and Marcus weren't partners yet. My bad, Marcus.
I'm Marcus's PR guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're a great product of Marcus's leadership.
Yes.
So,
sure.
Jim and Marcus hadn't partnered yet. In fact, me and Jim were in the same category. That's how long ago this was. We were out battling it out in the category. But the business fell apart, and this happens a lot in life. This happens in marriage. This happens in business. This happens in all kinds of stuff where there's that day where you have that moment and you're thinking to yourself, what do I do here? And Simon, you had mentioned several years back, I had this talk about the 5 stages of grief. And there's that first moment is sort of that denial moment. You know what I mean? Where he's like, nah, this ain't happening. Everything's going to be fine. That type of deal. The next moment is the angry moment. This is where you start blaming everything on the company. You're blaming it on perm. You're blaming it on your MGAs. It's got to be everybody's fault but mine. And then the next phase is bargaining. This is where you start thinking, man, if I could pull this off, maybe if I partnered with this guy, it would get me out of here. Or maybe if I maybe if I just got a loan from the bank or from the company, maybe this, this would help, right? And then that next phase is depression. This is where you're just, it's a dark, lonely place. And I know probably everybody's been there at one moment. You won't allow anybody in, even though they're on the outside trying to get in. And you are feeling this ton of weight on your chest of the responsibility and how you've let people down and you've let your family down, and how my mother-in-law was right. I should have never left my job at GE. All this is
coming back,
right? Is there. But what the winners do is they find that last level, which is acceptance. And that's that part where you realize, hey, this is my circus and these are my monkeys. And if it's going to be, it's up to me. I've got to dig in. And Simon, I have to tell you, and I think you can appreciate this more than anybody because you've had a tremendous amount of success. tremendous in the history of American income life. Boom, right up there with the 2 or 3 all-time greats. Simon's been there, but when you're at the peak of what you think is good, and all of a sudden, if you thought, okay, to make this thing work, I'm going to have to get back out there and start all over. I'm going to have to do a little selling. I'm going to have to train a few new guys because you don't have a choice. And I got to tell you, man, I was so blessed to get some great advice, because when I was in that depression piece of the stage, if you will, my wife told me something that literally changed the direction of my life. Because if you make the wrong decision when it's down and out, and you're going to have this happen multiple times, literally you change. That's a fork in the road for your life. You're probably going to end up in a different spot. And at that moment in time, you start to think about plan B. Y'all know, you know what I mean? Everybody's got their plan B. So I started thinking, well, maybe what I do is I ain't leaving the company. I knew that. I was like, there ain't no better opportunity. I was a top MGA in the company. I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I'll go be an MGA for a while, lick my wounds, get healed up, and maybe take another stab at this SGA thing down the road. And Dana said, just quote unquote, man, just burned on my brain forever. She said, why would you be an MGA for somebody else when you can be an MGA for the Steve Greer agency? And literally it hit me. And what she was saying is, look, you've got to do what you got to do. Why wouldn't you just go to work, Steve? And Simon knows, and even MGAs that are listening today, I know they know, because nobody, once you get out of the field, it's hard to get back in the field. It's heavy. If you're there, stay there. You know what I mean? Stay there until Simon tells you, okay, you can come out home. Because
come on home.
Yeah. It's tough once you get out. And if you can imagine being an SGA.
It's like Perm getting out of the Bentley. It's tough for him to get out.
Not really.
Come on, we can do this.
He's got the car seat in the back, so we got to help him out.
Oh, when I sit in the seat after he drives, I got to brace myself. It's like, poof, it's a long road down.
It's a long road.
Anyway, sorry.
Sorry about that.
I love it.
This guy.
No. Well, that was it for me. I mean, the acceptance part of the
now you're the
Simon
CEO. So I haven't asked you this one yet.
Okay.
But I'd like to smoke a cigar with you in that room there. I was in that cigar room at your house that you're sitting in there when it was being built.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get over there with you. But what are maybe one or 2 things that is harder than you expected as being the CEO? And on the flip side, maybe 1 or 2 things that you think has been cooler or easier, than you expected being the CEO.
So, one of the hard thing I'd say for me, one of the hard things is you never understand the magnitude of the weight and the responsibility. I have to tell you, for many years, I sat and looked at the previous CEO, Roger Smith, and you always naturally make judgments about decisions that your leader makes, whether you agree with them or don't agree with them. And it's just a natural thing that we all do. And until you walk a mile in that man's shoes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You can't appreciate it. And so, what I realized and what I would tell you the hard part for me was, you've got a company now that we have around 9,000 agents and about 1,000 people at our home office in Waco. So we got about 10,000 families, 10,000 people that are counting on you to make the right decision. And the magnitude of that, unless you try it on, you could relate it to watching guys on the field at the NFL because you played in high school and college, thinking, dude, I would get out there. You don't understand the speed of the game until you're on the field with that level of an athlete. And at this level, that was really hard to figure out. And the other thing, Simon, that our company is filled with with great leaders. And so when you're trying to lead, think about this, trying to lead people who've been here twice the time that you've been here and done 4 times as much, 10 times as much. There's a lot of finessing and trusting God that you've got to do. The other thing on the challenging part to me is really understanding the life of an organization and how the vision of the organization has to be driven by the purpose. And so, look, when you first get started in American Income, you're just wanting to win a contest and you're trying to get the gas card and you're trying to win the Maserati in the raffle or whatever's going on. And then all of a sudden somebody dies and you're involved in a claim and you realize every hair on your neck stands up and you get goosebumps all over your body. And you're like, I didn't realize, like, we're really here selling life insurance, man. People are really dying and you know what I mean? Things are really happening. You understand the reality of the business and how early on you just think it's about, the hustle and the grind and the money and the fun and the just trying to beat your buddy and trying to be the top dog in the office. And all of a sudden you realize, man, there's a purpose in this business that's so much greater than just, some of the financial things rewards that we get from it. Man, we're out making a difference. We're impacting people's lives. Right now, American Income Life is protecting 45,000 new families every single month. And I'm proud of that. You know why? Because nobody thinks about it. Everybody just puts it in a drawer and forgets about it. But all of a sudden, one day you become the most important person in somebody's life. And when you look at the number of claims that we pay out, it just blows my mind, the reality of our business. And so I take that very, very seriously. The purpose, if you really believe in the passion and the purpose of the company, it's what gives you the momentum to overcome the obstacles that are going to come in business. And they are going to come, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic, right? Obstacles, it's
been amazing. It's been amazing to see how we have adapted as a company, all the way down to the agency levels to going virtual with COVID-19. I mean, it just changed the game completely for all of us. Crazy. If somebody would have told me 90 days ago, hey, you're not going to be able to go see anyone in person,
period,
for the rest of the year, okay? Crazy. I would have been like on my knees somewhere telling Natalie we might need to look. I don't know how I'm going to, how are we going to do this? And man, within a few weeks, not only did we do it at the corporate level, making it all possible, those quick adjustments on the fly to be able to make it possible, but our people to go out there and actually do a better job. I know we broke our all-time record, our agency, during COVID-19. We plan on breaking that record currently right now this month of July. And we're not in most of our territories. We're not able to see anybody, in person. So thank you, for what you did and what the people at the company did behind the scenes to make that happen. What has it been like for you? I know I had the opportunity to sit front row when you brought in Jerry Jones to speak, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's one of the most storied, most popular. I mean, they call it America's team. Yeah. And so here I am sitting front row because of what we've done, with our company, to listen to Jerry Jones. And then, I know it used to be Gene Upshaw, but on our labor advisory board now is D. Maurice Smith, who is the NFL Players Union president, and all that stuff. But could you tell us a little bit about, what has, your experience with Jerry Jones been like, and that whole us being the official life insurance company of the Dallas Cowboys? What's that been like?
Yep. Yeah. Let me do that. Let me take one quick step back. And I want to say this. I want to say, because I've had a lot of people say, hey, Steve, with the virtual transition, man, you did such a good job, this, that, and the other. Let me just break a little myth. One thing that I will tell you from being in this business for a long time is all the great ideas all the great ideas come from the field. And I want to give the field a lot of credit, because there were some SGAs that reached out and started talking about how we could do our business virtually. And from there, it was just my job to execute the idea that you guys gave. But I want to turn and also give a tremendous amount of credit to our parent company, Globe Life, Larry and Gary, the co-CEOs there that own American Income Life. You know, I went to them and I said, look, this is what we need to do, and we need to do it fast. And I've got to tell you, their ability to make a quick decision and put the proper resources behind it is what has allowed American Income not just to survive, but to thrive during probably, you know, they call them business disruptors, Simon, probably one of the single largest business disruptors in modern history.
No doubt.
And not only did we just survive it, but we're thriving. And so I just was in between, you know, Globe and the field. And really that's sort of what my job is to, you know, to work in between those two groups of people and make it happen. So, you know, I'm thankful on both sides.
I had friends of ours, you know, reach out and say, you know, ask me, you know, fellow entrepreneurs, how's everything going? You know, how's and I almost felt bad to tell them the truth. You know, who really wants, who's at a down moment running a business and asks you, how you doing over there, man? And wants to hear you say, we're breaking records, buddy.
Are you really?
You know what I mean? And so it was almost hard for me to deliver. So what we ended up doing, and this ain't for show, this is for real, is we just started to step up our giving. You know, we started to give more things. We started to seek out more things. I almost felt like partially undeserving of the greatness that was coming our way in a respect of, I got to do more and give more if I'm one of the people that's out here that's blessed to be able to still continue to do business and have success. And I know that you've been that's been your spirit for as long as I've known you. You know, the youth program that I started in Youngstown, Inspiring Minds, you've been one of the main contributors and supporters, you and Dana, over the years, without even me asking. I mean, just random blessings, you know, from above have came by way of your family. And so I know giving is a big part of who you are, not just on the company side. And we give, you know, one of the things that one of my favorite parts of being on the executive council, you know, for this company is that you guys bless us with $15,000 that just for being on the council, we're able to give away to charitable organizations. But I know outside of the company, this is the spirit of your family. You know, this is what you do. What you know, what kind of drives you to give? What is your mindset in Dana's heart? You know, your wife. What does that whole giving thing mean to you guys?
So, you know, the first word that pops out is responsibility. And, you know, I've just always felt like you're blessed to be a blessing. And that's the truth. Both Dana and I, you know, feel very strongly the same way that, you know, it's a responsibility of ours. And we've been so blessed beyond our wildest dreams, what we could have ever imagined, that, you know, it's something that's in us. And, you know, it feels good because I've been on both ends of the deal. I've been on the receiving end. You know what I mean?
Best part.
I've been on the receiving.
Me too.
Right? I've been on the receiving end, and so I know what that end of it feels like as well. And you know, a lot of it's faith driven for us as well. There's no doubt, and we just know that, you know, you can't outgive God, and you know, we just like. Even like, it's kind of like you had mentioned, Simon, you know, that the other night you was thinking about not going on a run, and then something inspired you to go on a run. And I think you were talking to Parker.
Yep.
I think it's the same way with giving. Like every once in a while, even when you don't feel like it, that's when we go and do it. And just out of sense of responsibility. Really would be the best way I could tell you.
What about? I didn't get a chance to get your feel on the Cowboys thing, because to me, I've been with the company a while now, going on 15 years. In a couple months, it'll be 15 years for me. And for me, being a sports fan and specifically a football fan, playing college football, to be able to be there and sit there and listen and meet and be around the same room of Jerry Jones and just us. Yeah. It's not like Jerry Jones and 1,000 people or 10,000 people. It's just Jerry Jones and us. What has that stuff been like, for you? Because I know you've gotten even closer than me.
Man, it was very inspiring. Obviously, or I don't know if any of your listeners know, but his story starts in the insurance business. And when he told his story, in it being so similar to what so many of us do and have done, it was very, very inspiring. I'm just like, his story was super inspiring. But what was really neat behind the scenes was just how humble he was. I think a lot of times, you see people in like the media and little clips of one type of thing. The guy was just, you wouldn't know he's a billionaire. Super down to earth, humble. Want a picture? Let's talk. Just very, very casual. And so, it's just a reminder that people are people, but you could tell that there's a tremendous amount of wisdom there that comes from a long storyline of ups and downs. And some of the ups and downs were just mind blowing, and so it was, I'm so glad we have that relationship with them and them being here in Dallas, and we look forward to doing so much more with them. Now, on the flip side, this kind of interesting, DeMaurice Smith, you were talking about, he's the executive director for the NFL Players Association. And so what his job is taking care of the players. And so what's awesome. So I only met D one time. I was in DC, and one of our PR team hooked it up, and we got to meet D and sit down and talk with him probably for a couple hours. And I was blown away how passionate he was about his job. And what I mean by that is his job is to get the most for the players, to take care of the players, everything to do with the players. It has nothing to do with the NFL and the owners. It's almost like, and I think by trade, he might be a lawyer, if I remember correctly. So his job is to fight to make sure when their name's on the back of a shirt, they're getting paid. When it's on a cup, they're getting paid. Their contracts, their retirement. This guy has a fire-burning passion to take care of his people. And that's what any good leader does, is they fight for their people. And so I tell you what, he was a ball of energy. I said, I got to get this guy out to speak to our agency owners at some point, Simon. He was a lot of fun. And it's exactly how many SGAs are for their people. You're fighting to make sure your people have the best opportunity, get the best resources, best offices, to make their deal go. And so it was very neat to hang out with him and get to know him a little bit.
Well, I remember you telling me that story, and that's super cool. I know it's a transition because my whole bringing in sales here, I used to always, point to Gene Upshaw, on our labor advisory board. So I've had to even reteach myself. It's DeMaurice Smith. So I look forward to being able to put a face with the name. But as we wrap up, I had one more thing, but I don't know if do you have anything before I wrap up?
Just a couple things, man. I know you and the family like to go fishing a lot, right? Is that some of your hobbies? Yeah. Well, we went fishing. I don't know if we went to Florida not too long ago. We actually caught a shark. I want to tell you, since I know you're into fishing, and I this is what you do. You and Parker, right? Yeah. So we caught a shark as big as him.
Almost.
Really?
And a groper.
Nice. 5 feet.
What type of groper? Was it
groper. You're the groper. I'm gonna grope you. It was grouper.
Grouper.
You're a groper.
Oh, look, the grouper.
You be groping.
They said that was me.
Hang on now, that's my wife. They said the grouper was him because they said it was 400 pounds.
Yeah, crazy. So
they said, can you imagine? They were like, what was it like? You know, how can you explain it?
Listen, I was seasick. I was bouncing from, it was bad for me, bro. I was
on the way out. I was seasick.
But
you were a trooper, though.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to ruin the trip. I literally thought we were going to have to turn it back around for Perm. He was done for.
Yeah. So they say you got the keys now. How does it feel?
I don't think he understands what that means, the keys.
They say you have the keys now. How does that feel, boss?
Yeah, the keys, meaning like the keys to the car, like running the show, running the ship.
Oh.
Yep.
I tell you what, Perm, I will tell you this, you think you're going into a position and it's a leadership position, right? Yeah. It's all about leadership. But what I found out is it's really about stewardship. And what I mean by that is, when you look at our company, you have Bernard that ran it, and then you had Roger that had it from 99 until recently. And in my time will only be a moment in time. I will only be a small part of American Income's history. The one thing this thing does is grow. Yeah. The one thing it does is get bigger, and it's way bigger than any one person. When Bernard left the company, I don't know if you knew this, but it grew. And then Roger left, and it grew. And many great SGAs have left the company. And what does it do, Simon? It grows.
It's growing.
And my job is to be a good steward of the business, to take what has been given to me and make it better,
multiply it,
and leave it better for the next generation. And so how does it feel? It's heavy, brother.
Yeah.
It's heavy. I love it. Simon, people always say, what do you got to do to be successful, Steve? Or what are 2 or 3 things, that would make me successful? Yeah. And I know you get that question a lot as well. And what I'll tell, what I would tell you is, the first thing is you got to find God's calling on your life. And that's a big one, because like when you're 20, 25, it was like, Lord, I can't really help you with that. But what I mean by that is if you can figure out the gifts that you've been given and figure out a way to use that. So this word success, Perm, really, it's a big, broad word. I mean, when people, I always kind of wonder what people, when they say successful, what do they mean by that? So like, it's not the amount necessarily in your checkbook,
right?
Because if you're fulfilling your purpose and using your gifts, there's many people with a lot of money that are miserable people because they have no purpose, no fulfillment in their life. And so success can be defined so many different ways, but what I will tell you in general is, if you find what your gifts are, if you pick the right partner in life, man, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
A big piece of what I've been able to accomplish has been through a partnership with my wife. Mm-hmm. She's been an encourager. She's been there to pick me up when I was down. I remember a story, Simon, that Dana told me. Actually, her dad told me. And I think they wouldn't mind me sharing this. When Dana was young, a couple of guys came to her dad and said, hey, we want to start this business. And it was a business that he was very familiar with. He was in pipe fitting and construction. And he needed a certain amount of money to get started. And the only way he could do that would be to take a second mortgage out on his house. Mm-hmm. And so he went to his wife and said, hey, there's this great business opportunity. Here's what we need to do. And his wife, Dana's mom, absolutely refused to take out a second mortgage on the home. And he said, the bad thing is the other guys went ahead and went into business. And I spent the next 10 years working for them, watching them get super wealthy, becoming millionaires. And I think that story hit very, very close to home with Dana, because Dana has always been a champion of anything that I want to do. She's always been so much in support of it. And, pick the right partner. The last thing I'll tell you, this is one that I think most people wouldn't expect, but it's been a critical piece to, I feel like, mine and Dana's success in terms of what we've been able to do as a family. And it's something called delayed gratification, which isn't super popular with our young people. With our young people, everybody, we live in a credit card society, man. Yeah. You know, yesterday I wanted some new earphones. I wanted these iPod Pros. I had the regular ones, but I was like, I need the Pros. So I get on Amazon and boom, same day they're here at the house. I was like, wow. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, usually I got to wait a day or two.
Yeah, 3 days.
Especially since COVID, you know what I mean? With all the deliveries and everything. But bam, these babies were here, you know, same afternoon. And this delayed gratification, the reason why I bring it up is something that Dana and I were able to do early on really helped us out a few different times by delaying and not buying certain things.
Yeah.
When we went through a tough time in our business, we had the money to pay for it. We had the money to get through some of the tough times. But more importantly, people always ask about, you know, opportunities. And what I've told them is, you know, in your life, I don't know, you might have 5 good opportunities that come in front of you, maybe less. The question is, when the opportunity comes, can you capitalize on it? And I've been very fortunate that I've only had a couple, I'm talking about home run deals that came in front of me, and I looked at it, and because we had delayed, because we hadn't lived beyond our means, I'm not saying we didn't live comfortable, and I ain't saying we didn't have nice things, but because we delayed, we were able to capitalize on some of those opportunities, and those turned into game changers, you know, for the family. And I can tell you, there were other people, say maybe even family members, that I said, hey, here's an opportunity, and they couldn't make the play because they had pretty much spent everything they had. And so you never know when those are going to present themselves. But those are a couple of key things for me. You know, find what your purpose is, understand what your gifts are, pick the right partner. I say that because
huge.
You know, Freddie always says she's either on your side or on your back, right? And I've been so blessed to have Dana on my side this entire time.
Truth.
And it just makes you so much stronger as a person. And then be prepared, you know, whether it's American Income Life, whether it's a CEO thing. And I'll end with this, Simon, and because I know we got to get off here. I think everybody thinks that once you're successful, that everything's easy in life, Perm, and you don't have to sacrifice anymore, and there's no more adversity. Well, Simon can tell you, back in 2015, my business was having the best year it had ever had, and I made a decision to go to the home office. And for the next 4 years, I lived in an apartment. I flew out on Monday morning, flew back on Friday night, got home at 7 o'clock.
Wow.
And for 4 years, when my son was in high school and my daughter was wrapping up high school, I lived in Dallas while they lived in McKinney. We didn't need to do it for the money. Okay.
Right.
We'd already had that all taken care of. We'd already moved all around the country and done everything that we needed to do. We did it for American.
You mean they lived in Houston and you lived in Dallas?
Yeah, Okay. Yes. I lived in Dallas. They lived in Houston. And so what the point I'm trying to get across to you is 400 plane flights.
400 plane sites. Wow.
400 plane flights. And you know, Monday through Friday being gone from the house, and there are new agents or people getting started saying, oh, I got to miss something tonight. I missed everything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night until Friday at 7 o'clock at night. And so when I didn't have to do it 15 years deep in this deal, when essentially, you know, we're on top of the world. But I think that's the thing that I hope we get across to somebody on the phone call today. It's that mindset of you're always going to have to continue to give up, to go up. It never stops. You can't be afraid of it, and understand that it's only temporary. My family's here now. We have a beautiful home. Everything's okay. Right. Everybody's calmed down. It was just a moment in time where we had to put things on hold to make greatness happen and things, come together. And it's not that long. So if you're out there, pay the price, pay it faster, pay it harder, look it in the eye, man. Get excited about it, knowing that it's going to be behind you in a short period of time. And I think once you get started, sometimes that's the hardest part.
Amen. I love it.
400 flights to now on your own flight, right? Your own jet, right?
Let's go.
On the PJ, baby.
The PJ.
Not the projects no more. That's the private jet. Not your pajamas. And I'll tell you this, man, that first of all, thank you for cutting time out for us to be on the Grindcast with us. But genuinely, I'll tell you, it feels good, man, to know that, regardless, I'm going to go hard for my people. I'm going to go hard for my family, regardless of who's in office. Just like, I don't care who's the president of the United States. I'm still going to be an American. I'm still going to keep it pushing and keep on grinding. But it does give me a little bit extra of a boost and extra confidence to know the type of man that you are, the type of husband that you are, the type of father that you are, and the type of friend that you've been for me. But before all of this, we were friends first, and peers first, man. And I can just tell you, for the listeners out there that are with our company, that you couldn't have a better person. And even with Larry and Gary, at Globe, I mean, just the future couldn't be in better hands of better character people than the people that we have, currently right now up there, which includes you, man. So thank you for being you. Thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us on another episode of the Grindcast. Get ready, it's a new day.
Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.